Hello everybody, this is Xinfu, the instructor of the course. So it's the first time to meet you online. Glad to meet you. I'm trying to use some videos and audios into my course, so some of your questions can be answered during my videos. Okay, and the chapter 9 is about the Keynesian model, and we've learned part of this model in chapter 8, and now we will complete a model by adding two more components, that is government spending and net export. Okay, so in this case, aggregate expenditure model does not only include two components, consumption and investment, but these four components: consumption, investment, government spending, and net exports. Okay, and this chapter actually tells us how the equilibrium GDP is determined in the economy. How do we figure out equilibrium GDP graphically or by a table? Okay, so the first one would like to show you this example, and with 7 columns here. The first one is real GDP, okay, or income. So GDP actually equals total income in an economy. This is the total production, also the total income earned by people in this economy. And number 2 is consumption, and 3 investment, 4 that is government spending, and 5 and net exports. Okay, so how can we calculate aggregate expenditure in the economy? That is the sum of C, I, G, and net exports. So basically, you add these 4 numbers together, and you will get the aggregate expenditure in the economy. That is 3,600. Okay, and number 7, change in inventories. So that is GDP minus the aggregate expenditure. Okay. So why, you might ask, what is the difference between GDP and aggregate expenditure? So remember when we learned chapter 5 about GDP, GDP includes these 4 components: C, I, G, and net exports. Okay, so in this case, when we talk about investment under GDP, it has 2 subcomponents: fixed investment and the change in private inventories. Fixed investment is also what we call planned investment. Okay, and change in private inventory sometimes is unplanned investment. Okay, unplanned investment. That means if the economy is good, people's income goes up, and the companies find they can sell more than what they produce, and there's a decrease in inventories. And the economy is in recession, and the companies find they produce more than what they can sell, and that's increased total private inventory. So the change in private inventory sometimes is caused by the business cycles and out of company's control. So this is what we call unplanned business or unplanned investment. So when we calculate GDP, that is C, I, G, and net export. Okay, and aggregate expenditure equals C, I, G, and net exports. Okay, and these are the same. The only difference here is investment. So aggregate expenditure only includes fixed investment. So that is, we only refer to planned investment, while GDP includes both planned and unplanned. That is what we call change in private inventories. So if we use the GDP minus aggregate expenditure, the difference is the change in business inventories. Okay, so go back to this slide. That's why we got numbers here. So GDP minus aggregate expenditure, that is minus, that means business inventories decreased by $1,600. Okay, so let's look at some different levels of GDPs. First, let's look at 3,000, and at this time aggregate expenditure is 4,200. Okay, so what does that mean? That means in this economy, people's income is $3,000. People earn $3,000 income while they spend $4,200 on goods and services. So in this case, GDP actually is less than the aggregate expenditure. People spend more than what they earn in the economy. That caused inventory decrease by $1,200. Okay, so this is a decrease in business inventory. Companies will hire more workers, increase working hours to produce more because there's an excess demand in the market. So this is not the equilibrium GDP level. Companies' production goal tends to change and they will increase the production goal, thus the GDP level goes up and move downward. And there's another level of GDP that is 9,000, while aggregate expenditure at this time is $7,800. Okay, so what does it mean? GDP is more than the aggregate expenditure. So people earn $9,000, but they only spend $7,800 on goods and services. Less, which is less than the total income. Okay, so the economy produces a lot of goods, but only part of the goods are sold, and the cost increase in business inventory. So inventory increased by $1,200. Okay, to get rid of all those surplus or unsold items, companies will decrease their production, lay off workers, decrease working hours. Okay, so 9,000 is not the equilibrium GDP level in the economy either. So what is the point? Or what is the equilibrium? Yes, 6,000 and then 6,000, and then at this point GDP equals aggregate expenditure. And there's zero or there's no change in business inventory. So that's why we say change in inventory plays a very important role in the economy when determining the equilibrium GDP. So there's no change in inventory, the companies will maintain the current production goal, not increase, not decrease, and the economy reaches its equilibrium. So when GDP equals total aggregate expenditure, the economy reaches equilibrium and there's no change in business inventory. Yep, we will look at the graph for the second video.